Unless you're like Patrick over here, living under a rock. Chances being, you have seen one of these insanely viral edits, which tends to be like one of these cool scene clips in the intro. Very good song and some shiny text, which then when the beat drops goes into these zooms of clips in a very aesthetic manner. And recently, people have been pulling insane, and when I say insane, I mean insane views from these sort of edits. Like for example, with that specific editing style, this video got 300,000 views, that one got 600,000, and this one got 3 million. Oh wait, did I forget to mention that I made all 3 of those edits right there? Today, I'm going to be walking you through step by step on how I make my own film edits, and how you at home could follow the same process. I will break down everything from the way I cut my clips, to how I make the text, to my specific settings for the clean zoom effect, and I actually have a preset for every single one of these effects I use, so make sure to check those out in the first link in the description. So before we go into this edit, if you're planning to follow along, please make sure you have these plugins on screen installed. If you don't have them or don't know where to find them, join my Discord server in the description, and go ahead and ask in the editing help channel. So before we get into the edit, I needed to find the audio I wanted. I went ahead and downloaded this song, which has been hella trending recently, and judging by the fact this film edit I'll be making is kind of sad, it will totally be fitting the mood. It's a very great note to use an audio that's trending or in general has blown up recently. From my personal experience, it massively increases your chances of going viral. Then I went ahead and launched After Effects and made a new edit project with these comp settings. And before you ask about that length, I like to make my projects very long in the start so I can trim through my scene pack smoothly. So from here I start by importing the clip I want to use for the intro. In this case, a very sad episode from The Flash where my favorite character kind of dies. So basically, all our job is right now is to drag the clip along until you can find the clip of the intro you want to use. So once I found the clip I wanted, I mainly just cut up the scene that I wanted to use for the intro, and then I kind of trimmed it down to exactly which part I wanted and which part I didn't. I'm not going to get into repositioning it yet though, we're going to save that for later. So once I was done with that, the next step here was to import the song. And I just went ahead and adjusted that to my liking and cut it up and all that. I slowed it down a little bit, I even made it longer than the actual song is. But if you want this exact edit audio that I'm using, you can actually find it in my edit audio section in the Discord server, where I tend to drop an edit audio at least every week. Once I was happy with the edit audio, I just went ahead and readjusted some of the intro clips. From there, I started to mark beats after the beat drop of the edit in which we were going to add our zooms. And to do that, it was very simple. I just left click on the audio, keyframes, keyframe assistant, then this pops up, so select it, click U, select one of these keyframes, and then open the graph. So from here, you can see all the beats and where they peak. So from here, I carefully listened and looked to see which beat was going to be, and marked them very carefully, because I didn't want this to be off beat. And by the end of it, I had about 11 beats marked. I mean, I could have marked more, but I didn't want this edit to come out too long, since I was going to repeat this zoom part afterwards too. The next step from here was to cut up those clips we were actually going to use for the zooms. From here, this took me about like 5 to 10 minutes. I just jumped straight to adding them to the edit, which was just right in between those beats we had just marked. Once I had done that, I adjusted the scale with S on my keyboard and the positioning with P to have them fit in frame. Next, I just went ahead and added some very basic face tracking to the characters with this tracking panel right here. And if you need an in-depth tutorial on that, video card is above. Then I just went ahead and did that with all of my clips to make them look a lot nicer. And really quick, because the frame rate of my clips don't match my composition, which is 60 FPS, I'm going to select all of these and add frame blending to them by clicking this. But I'm going to actually click on it twice so it could show up as pixel motion blending. This just makes it look a lot cleaner. From here, I went ahead and pre-composed all these clips individually by clicking Ctrl-Shift-D, and now we're ready to get into the zoom effects. So now that we have all these pre-composed, the first thing you want to do is go up here and search up Twixtor. We're going to do this to add the slowish mo-ish effect. So drop Twixtor to your first comp, and then go up here, and because I made my comp in 60 FPS, I want to change this to 60. So now we're going to start by going to the very start. So yeah, let's change that up to 120. Go to the middle. I think I'm going to turn it down to like 45, and then go all the way to the end and turn it back up to 120. From here, easy ease those keyframes, select one of them and open up this graph, and then just follow this kind of graph I make here. Actually, I think I'm gonna do a value graph like this. So yeah, just copy the same thing I'm kind of doing here. Actually, I'm gonna turn this up to like 60 because it looks too slow. Next, search up blur curves, apply it to your pre-comp, go to the very start of it, and then keyframe Z dist, and I think I'm just gonna leave it at 1, and go to the end, and then turn that down to like 0.75. As of right now, as you can tell, we're making zoom ins. The next thing we'll be making is zoom out. So now make sure you easy ease those two keyframes, select one of them, and open up the graph and then copy the same graph I make here. Now here's a little spice I like to use to make the zooms actually look really good is make sure you have the Essence More Blur curve selected and you have this selected. You'll see this little circle anchor point thing and make sure you just drag that to like the direction of their nose. So next from here, I'm just gonna like copy and paste that to half of the clips. Now for the rest of these, I want to zoom out. So let me just show you how to do that. So go ahead and just start by copying and pasting the clips for the zoom in. Go ahead and trim it down. You could do this by holding down Alt and dragging the keyframes down. Now just go ahead and switch these keyframes here, just like how I did it. And now go ahead and select one. As you can see, the graph resets, and then just kind of make the same graph we made earlier, just like this. And yeah, that's kind of it. And also make sure you readjust this. And now once you're done with all those zooms, just go ahead and pre-compose them all. And if you just want it to repeat like how I'm doing here, then just select it, click Ctrl D to duplicate it, and then just drag it so it's right after the first one. Now you finished the zooms. Let's actually work on our intro now. So the first thing I started by doing is selecting all the clips and adjusting the scale so it would fit the composition. Then I started cutting up each clip right when the scene changes, so I can adjust the position of them individually. Since I have a very long intro of like a minute and a half, this overall took me a hot minute. So afterwards, I went ahead and just adjusted the positioning values for each one of those scenes so it was centered well in the middle. I initially was going to add some basic face tracking, but I passed on it since the intro was very long. And the fact that there were some scenes that would be very hard for the face tracking to work, I overall just dropped the entire idea. But if you want to add some basic like face X tracking to your intro, go ahead and feel free to do so. Next, I applied the frame blending thing again to these clips, but there is this glitch that happens when the clip changes scenes. So if you're running into the same issue, here's how you can fix it. So select the first clip and go to right before the glitch starts, and then go ahead and cut it right there. Now select the second clip and go to right when the glitch ends, cut it right there again. Now just go ahead and select those two clips right in between that we just cut and disable the frame blending. So now if you watch it, you can see with that simple fix, the glitch is gone. So now I just went ahead and repeated that with every time I had the bug. And finally, once I was done with my entire intro, I went ahead and pre-composed all my scenes so it just wouldn't look as messy. But then I had another problem. In the background of my clips, it had its own background music, which is, you know, annoying ass violin music. Since it's gonna sound horrible with my edit overlapping with the song in the background, let me just show you how to remove it. So let's go into that comp where we have all our scenes in and click Ctrl M to cue a render. Then go to the format and change it to an MP3, and then just go ahead and send it to render. Next, open up a new browser and search up vocalremover.org and drop that MP3 we just rendered into it. And now, because this is going to take a while on my end, since my audio is very long, let's just work on the text right now and we'll come back to this later. So we're first going to start by making basic text, which is overall pretty simple. So first start by clicking Ctrl-Shift-Alt-T and then type in whatever the character is saying. So in this clip, he says, "How can I be the Flash without a Wells on this team?" But between those two little sentences, he has a little gap, so I'm going to make it two separate texts. So first, I'm going to start by changing the font to Arial Bold and make sure I don't have this selected. Make sure these two are both 100 so the text looks even. Then maybe I'll keep the gap like that. So we're gonna cut it to when the dialogue starts. So first, let's just go ahead and add Deep Glow, and then select Unmolt, and then put the exposure to 0.65. And then let's just extend that radius out till when it looks good, I think, like that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add BCC Drop Shadow. Disclaimer, I applied BCC Drop Shadow, but it gave me problems with Deep Glow later on in the render. So at some point, I just switched it back to standard Drop Shadow. So in this moment, I suggest you not to use BCC Drop Shadow and just use the original one with any settings of your choice. So next, I want to add that little zoom-ish, out-ish thing with the text. So we're gonna go down here, animate, tracking. We're gonna keyframe that right there, and then we're gonna go all the way to the end, and then maybe just turn it up to like 15. I think I'm gonna turn up the glow. I think I'm gonna make the text a little bit more sort of centered out. So next, let's just start by adding fade upwards, and then these two keyframes will pop up. So basically, these two keyframes determine when and how the text will fade out. So when it says 0%, that means no text will be shown, and when it says 100%, all the text will be shown. So these two keyframes, you just want to adjust it to like whenever the character starts talking. Then you want to put this one when he stops talking. Now, if the character does a couple gaps in between words, which he didn't in this case, but let's say just for example, he had a gap between I would want to go to where the I just popped up and there's no other text after it. I would just keyframe that, and then maybe let's say he paused for half a second and then he started talking again right here, I would just copy that and then paste it right here. So as you can see, it pauses and then the rest fades up. And then for our fade out animation, we're just gonna search up fade out slow. It's kind of the same thing here. When it says -100, that means you can still see all the text, and then when it says +100, it'll all be gone, and it fades out slow like this. So basically in this scene, the character is saying, how could I be the Flash? And he pauses, and then he says, without a Wells on this team. So what I'm going to do is duplicate the text, and then kind of use the position value to bring it down here. I'm gonna add text with a stroke, and I think I'm gonna make it red or yellow. To make the text a stroke, what you wanna do first is just go to the character panel, and then what I'll do is just click the switch button. First, I'll just change the color of the stroke to red. And then because my stroke width is really thick, I'm just gonna turn that down a little bit. So right about here. So next, I'm just gonna go ahead and change the words. So with and because it lasts too long, I'm just gonna drag these back. And I think the text looks just a little too big, so I'm just gonna select both of these and just turn it down. Now before you think, oh wait, the text looks a little too small, just remember this is going to be viewed on a phone on full screen. So this isn't going to look as small as it seems on this big ass computer screen. Yeah, I think I'm gonna keep that white, and then I think I'm just gonna highlight one text. And in order to do that, you just like select the text like this. Just double click on the text, and then you go to the character panel, select the stroke, and then you can change the color of that. So for the rest of this text in the intro, I just kept duplicating the same text and changing the words. Sometimes the colors and sometimes the font too. And if you're curious on which fonts I used, they're on screen. So once I was done with making the text, I went ahead and made this little title card-ish sort of thing with the character's name. I started by duplicating the comp for the clips in the intro, then cut it down to the length to which I wanted the title effect, which was just the last few seconds of the edit. Then I used the CRT emulator by going under Window, Extensions, and then selecting CRT emulator. Once this thing popped up, I then went ahead and selected the one I wanted and messed around with the effects to my liking. So now normally once you're done and you click apply, it'll take a second, and that pre-comp that we just cut it off is actually just going to be as long as our composition again. So I just went back and again trimmed it back down to how long I wanted it to be for. I then went back into the pre-comp and added my text and adjusted it around to my liking. Now for this specific edit, I didn't want to get too complex with it, so I kept it very basic with just some text. But sooner or later down the line, I plan on making a tutorial with very advanced film style edits, so make sure you're subscribed for that. I just also went ahead and applied the black and white effect to the scene because personally I think it looked a lot better that way and made the text stand out more. And then once I was done with the text, I also added this adjustment layer on top of everything and applied a S_scanlines effect so it could have that more so oldish texture that I'm going with this. Once I was done, I went back to the main comp and I applied a little opacity animation to the title card so it would like kind of fade into it like this. And then really quick right here, I applied one of my shake presets to be at the start of the zoom clips, in which you could find in my shakes pack in the description. And then I kind of also trimmed down the shake to be a little bit shorter because I did not want it to be that strong. Then I quickly went into a couple of the individual clips for the zooms and put my watermark. Because you know, the last thing I really need right now is another KindMaster NPC trying to crop out my watermark and repost my edit. That will probably get more likes than it should. And then on top of that, I also quickly just added this little flash in effect with a white solid layer and opacity keyframes, which will be visible right when the zoom clips start, also on top of that shake we added. And in my opinion, it just flows a lot better with the overall edit. Oh, now wait, let's continue removing the background music from earlier. So now by now, the vocal remover should practically be done. So once it is, you should see a layout like this. Go over to the vocals and turn it all the way up, and turn the music part all the way down. Then go over here and select download for the vocals only. From here, go back into that comp with all of your clips, and just drag in that file we just downloaded. And then you can just go ahead and mute all these original clips. And also do note, this also does remove like background sound effects, so maybe if you have like a punch sound and you really want to keep it in, then you might want to listen to this next part. Now how I like to fix that is just go ahead and unmute the clip with the sound effect that you want to keep in. Then just go ahead and mess with the audio keyframes so you can turn it up when the sound effect is visible, and then all the way down when it isn't. Lastly, one of, if not the most important step of these sort of edits is, well, you've guessed it, the color correction. For this edit, I just went ahead and used my realism CC in the intro and my dark night CC for the zooms part of the edit, which made my clip clips look like this to this. So if you want those exact CCs I used too, then feel free to find them in the description. And you know what? Because you've watched till this point in the video, use this discount code on screen and you'll get a 15% off. And once again, preset links are in the description. Now lastly, from here I went ahead and pre-composed my entire edit, added my watermark. By the way, the tutorial's on the video card if you want the same one I used. And lastly, I set it to render. Awesome! Now you know how to make a viral film edit so you can rub it in your CapCut friends' faces. Oh, but if you thought that edit was hard to make, then you do not want to see that one time when I edited on a VR right here.